One night, a woman went out for drinks with her girlfriends. She left the bar fairly late at night, got in her car and onto the deserted highway. After a few minutes, she noticed a lone pair of headlights in her rearview mirror, approaching at a pace just slightly quicker than hers. As the car pulled up behind her, she glanced and saw the turn signal light on. The car was going to pass, when suddenly it swerved back behind her, pulled up dangerously close behind her tailgate, and the brights flashed. Now she was getting nervous. The lights dimmed for a moment, and then the brights came back on, and the car behind her surged forward. The frightened woman struggled to keep her eyes on the road and fought the urge to look back at the car behind her. Finally, her exit approached, but the car continued to follow, flashing the brights periodically through every stoplight and turn. It followed her until she pulled into her driveway. She figured her only hope was to make a mad dash into the house and call the police. As she flew from the car, so did the driver in the car behind her, and he screamed, "Lock the doors and call the police! Call 911! When the police arrived, the horrible truth was finally revealed to the woman. The man in the car behind her had been trying to save her. As he pulled up behind her and his headlights illuminated her car, he saw the silhouette of a man with an axe rising up from the back of his seat to stab her. So he flashed his brights, and the figure crouched back down. So-and-so's friend, a girl in her teens, is babysitting for a family in Newport Beach, California. The family is wealthy and has a very large house, you know the sort, with a ridiculous amount of rooms. Anyways, the parents are going out for a late dinner/movie, and the father tells the babysitter that once the children are in bed, she should go to the specific room. He doesn't want her wandering around the house, and watch TV there. The parents take off, and soon she gets the kids into bed, and goes to the room to watch TV. She tries watching TV, but she is disturbed by a clown statue in the corner of the room. She tries to ignore it for as long as possible, but it starts freaking her out so much that she can't handle it. She resorts to calling the father and asks, "Hey, the kids are in bed, but is it okay if I switch rooms? This clown statue is really creeping me out." The father says seriously, "Get the kids, go next door and call 911. She asks, "What's going on?" He responds, "Just go next door, and once you call the police, call me back." She gets the kids, goes next door, and calls the police. When the police are on the way, she calls the father back and asks, "So, really, what's going on?" He responds, "We don't have a clown statue." He then further explains that the children have been complaining about a clown watching them as they slept. He and his wife had just blown it off, assuming they were having nightmares. The police arrived and apprehended the clown, who turned out to be a midget. A midget clown. I guess he was some homeless person dressed as a clown who somehow got into the house and had been living there for several weeks. He would come into the kids' rooms at night and watch them while they slept. As the house was so large, he was able to avoid detection, surviving off their food and other household appliances. He had been in the TV room right before the babysitter came in there. When she entered, he didn't have enough time to hide, so he just froze in place and pretended to be a statue. My cousin and his wife lived in Sydney with this huge Doberman in a little apartment off Maroubra Road. One night, they went out for a dinner and a spot of clubbing. By the time they got home, it was late and my cousin was more than a little drunk. They got in the door and they were greeted by the dog choking to death in the lounge room. My cousin just fainted, but his wife rang the veterinarian, who was an old family friend of hers, and got her to agree to meet her at the surgery. The wife drives over and drops off the dog, but decides she better go home and get her husband into bed. She gets home and finally slaps my cousin into consciousness, but he's still drunk. It takes her almost half an hour to get him up the stairs, and then the phone rings. She's tempted to just leave it, but she decides that it must be important, or they wouldn't be ringing that late at night. As soon as she picks up the phone, she hears the vet's voice screaming out, "Oh, thank God, I got you in time. Leave the house now. No time to explain." Then the vet hangs up. Because she's such an old family friend, the wife trusts her, and she starts getting her husband down the stairs and out the house. By the time they've made it all the way out, the police are outside. They rush up the front stairs past the couple and into the house. But my cousin's wife still doesn't have a clue what's going on. The vet shows up and says, "Have they got him?" "Have they got who?" says the wife, starting to get pissed off. "Well, I found what the dog was choking on." It was a human finger. The dog's fine, by the way. Just then, the police drag out a dirty, stubbly man who is bleeding profusely from one hand. "Hey, Sarge," one of them yells. "We found him in the bedroom." A woman and her boyfriend were on their way home from a party one night, and suddenly his car runs out of gas. It was about 1 in the morning, and they were completely alone in the middle of nowhere. The guy stepped out of the car, saying comfortingly to his girlfriend, "Don't worry, I'll be right back. I'm just gonna go out for some help. Lock the doors, though." She locked the doors and sat restlessly waiting for her boyfriend to come back. Suddenly, she sees a shadow fall across her lap. She looks up to see not her boyfriend, but a strange, crazed-looking man. He is swirling something in his right hand. He sticks his face close to the window and slowly pulls up his right hand. In it is her boyfriend's decapitated head, attached to a hook. Twisted horribly in pain and shock, she shuts her eyes and tries to make the image go away. When she opens her eyes, the man is still there, grinning psychotically. He slowly lifts his left hand, and he is holding her boyfriend's keys to the car. Once there was a girl who lived in a small town. Her parents had to go to town for a while, so they left their daughter home alone, but protected by her dog, which was a very large collie. The parents told the girl to lock all the windows and doors after they left, and at about 8 p.m., the parents went to town. So, doing what she was told, the girl shut and locked every window and every door, but there was one window in the basement that would not close completely. Trying as best as she could, she finally got the window shut, but it would not lock. So she left the window and went back upstairs. But just to make sure that nobody could get in, she put the deadbolt lock on the basement door. Then she sat, had some dinner, and decided to go to sleep for the night, settling down to sleep at about 12 o'clock. She snuggled up with her beloved dog and fell asleep. But at one point, she suddenly woke up. She turned and looked at the clock. It was 2:30 a.m. She snuggled down again, wondering what had woken her, when she heard a noise. It was a dripping sound. She thought that she'd left the water running and now it was dripping from the drain of a sink, so thinking it was no big deal, she decided to go back to sleep. But she felt nervous, so she reached her hand over the edge of her bed and let the dog lick her hand for reassurance that he would protect her. Again, at about 3:45 a.m., she woke up hearing dripping. She was slightly angry now, but went back to sleep anyway. Again, she reached down and let the dog lick her hand, and she fell back asleep. At about 6:52 a.m., the girl decided that she had had enough. She got up just in time to see her parents were pulling up to the house. Good, she thought. Now somebody can fix the sink, as I know I didn't leave it running. She walked to the bathroom and there was the dog, skinned and hung up on a curtain rod. The noise that she heard was its blood dripping into a puddle on the floor. The girl screamed and ran to her bedroom to get a weapon in case someone was still in the house. And there, on the floor, next to her bed, she saw a small note written in blood saying, "Humans can lick too."